made the best of 2 days on the North East BDR. We knew if we wanted 2 full riding days, we'd have to leave Long Island the night before, so we packed up and headed out Thursday evening. The ferry ride was such a relaxing start, which was a stark contrast to the torrential downpour we hit once we got into the curvy highways of upstate New York. And of course, as my luck would have it, both my waterproof pants and boots failed, so I was completely soaked. If you've got any gear recommendations, drop them in the comments. We'll have already come up with some items for the wish list. I'd love additional recommendations.
We stayed at the Downsville Motel, right between sections 1 and 2 of the NEBDR. Cozy, affordable, and easy to grab a room, even with no reservations. We rolled right up, and there was a sign that said what rooms were available. It was a solid stop. By morning, the skies had cleared, and the dampness had lifted, setting us up for a perfect start to section 2.
Okay, here we are outside the Downsville Motel, ready for Northeast BDR. Section 2, Shaun's first time. Are you ready, Shaun?
I'm ready.
Clay, you ready?
Always.
All right, let's ride. Our first real stop was for coffee at a hidden gem called Mornings in Arkville, New York. It's this amazing Korean cafe. I had an eisenpanner latte with apple butter and cinnamon. Their breakfast wraps were fresh and flavorful with a little kimchi on the side. Total perfection. And while the boys filled up at the gas station, I wandered into Nana's attic and oddities right next door. From the outside, it looks like an old garage with big glass doors, but inside, it's this treasure trove of antiques, vintage signs, crystals, taxidermy, and even old knives and lighting fixtures. I could have spent hours exploring, but that'll have to wait for another trip, as this trip was for a different type of exploring, as we had the Northeast BDR Section 2 waiting for us. So I'm going to send these guys up elevator shaft, but I want to make sure all my cameras are mounted on their bikes so I get all the footage. Good luck on elevator shaft, guys.
Expert section called the elevator shaft. This was a very steep, rocky, uphill and downhill section. Probably 3 miles in total, but you go up 1,000 feet in elevation and you go down 1,000 feet in elevation. Shaun and I were both on 890s with proper suspension and proper tires. This was his first real off-road ride on that bike and with those tires after his 10 raid. He did great. He killed this section. It was really a struggle. I shouldn't say that. It was a struggle only because it was relentless. You had arm pump by the time you got to the top, and that was the only spot to rest. And on the way down, it was much of the same. So you're on the brakes going down, or else you can get a little, out of hand. There were some small jumps on the way down, but couldn't really hit them too hard or else you'd get going too fast. It was really fun. And like I said, Shaun did great. I've not really reviewed the footage because I send that all to Megan, but everything that I've seen of this doesn't really do it justice. It's pretty steep up and it's pretty steep down. It's really hard to kind of capture that, especially with the wide angle lenses of an Insta360 and the GoPro. It's famous for that GoPro look of the super wide view, which flattens all the terrain. But it was very steep, both ways, up and down. I had the Insta360 on my bike, and it was mounted high on my left handlebar. The terrain was so rough that the shaking of the camera in its mount was too much for it to handle, and the mount itself broke. The camera went tumbling to the ground, and for a second I thought I ran it over. But we were able to stop, go back, and retrieve
the whole ball. Yeah, it's still recording now. Scratched the lens, for sure. Sorry, Megan. The 12's still going though.
I opted for the standard route, which was still stunning. Smooth, flowing back roads, winding curves, sweeping views. It just felt so good. I even found myself picking up the pace and feeling more confident than usual, while still taking in the scenery all around us. Clay led such a perfectly paced ride that we didn't stop until reaching our campsite at North-South Lake Campground in Haines Falls, New York. Normally, I'm not a big fan of public campgrounds, but this one is beautiful. Spacious sites, big rocks, and trees in between for privacy, and it sits right on a scenic lake. Perfect for unwinding after a long ride. Now the neighbors. Let's just say they were not exactly one with nature. Giant tarp, bright lights, loud cooking late into the night. It felt like we had the only unprivate campsite. But even that couldn't ruin the vibe. We had such a great evening around the fire, and Shaun shared stories from his 6-week moto trip to Alaska, which was incredible to hear.
We had dinner in Tannersville at the Last Chance Antiques and Cheese Cafe. The food was good, surrounded by quirky antiques. Of course, we had to grab ice cream after. There was a general store on the way to the campground. This ski town may be off-season, but it's got plenty of character.
Shaun, tell us a little bit about your riding background, like off-road or adventure.
I've been riding since 2019. I started out with an SV650.
It's a cool bike.
And then I sold that to buy a Tenere. I actually sold the Jeep to also buy the Tenere. And then
We love Jeeps.
that summer, I said, okay, time to buy another bike. So I also bought a Ducati Scrambler.
Oh.
So then I had both of those bikes.
937 motor?
No, it was a 80. I
Is
think
the one Tyler had?
it was the Desert Sled.
Oh, that's a cool bike. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it was $899. No, that's this.
Yeah, this is $899.
Yeah.
937. I
I don't know.
don't even know.
So then, while I was doing that, my two uncles said, "You want to go to Alaska with us for 6 weeks?" And I said, "Sure." So I went on a 6-week trip with my Tenere, towed it across the country to Colorado, and then rode from Colorado to the Arctic Ocean.
How many miles? I'm sure you know.
That trip was 12,000 miles.
That's
Holy crap. And what, you went with your uncles?
Yeah, my uncles, two of their buddies. Yeah. So we
What
went.
oil in the middle of the trip? Or keep
Yep.
going?
Yeah, once we got back to Washington.
What mix of like bikes went?
So it was a Tenere, a 890, a 990, an F800, and a 1200 GS with the manual clutch. Not the manual clutch, the dry clutch.
What was it with the dry clutch?
A GS?
Really?
Yeah.
Dry clutch?
What?
Very weird.
And where did you start from in Colorado?
We started in Nederland, Colorado, which is right outside of Boulder.
Oh my gosh, that's quite an adventure.
Yeah.
So you've ridden some pretty epic things, but here we are on the East Coast. So
Yeah.
is this your first time off-road on the East Coast?
On the East Coast, yep. I mean,
And-
minus some little things, but
And your first day on BDR, North East BDR Section 2,
yep.
elevator shaft,
Yeah.
drop it.
On
No.
the bike, too.
So feelings on your, or not feelings, so reactions of BDR day one.
It's a nice change of pace. I mean, I primarily been doing a lot of road stuff, but going back to off-road, I do love off-road, so getting back into it. Yeah. I mean, it was a little loose is the way I'd word that, but
Terrain or the bike?
no, the terrain.
Yeah, okay.
But other than that, I really have no complaints.
You did good. You crushed.
Yeah, we had an absolutely epic day. I had an epic day all around. I think we were like a great team. Clay killed it leading us and always told us what the terrain was. Shaun, second, always took his advice online. And then I was able to keep up enough to see where Shaun was riding. And even though it's his first day doing BDR, he's a very proficient rider. So I felt very safe and confident, and we just all made a really good team.
Yeah.
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 Went well. Most of the time.
Yes. Teamwork, guys. It was
Yeah.
awesome. Right?
We started the next morning as our usual go-to, Moto Machine Coffee. That became our unofficial start to Section 3. Same great lattes, and Shaun, being a non-coffee drinker, just admired the lineup of bikes, while Megan was, well, Meganing. Her rain gear had failed the night before, and with many more storms on the way, she found her perfect solution.
Dry, and who's gonna be seeing out there in the severe weather? This girl.
A high vis from head to toe. Function over fashion. Guess once you hit a certain age, practicality wins.
Gorgeous roads through Section 3 before stopping at Off the Trails, a brand new cafe in Falls River, Connecticut, right off the Appalachian Trail. The food was delicious, and they even had camping supplies, fuel canisters, a gear exchange bin, little touches that made it extra fun to stumble upon. We were supposed to meet 5 off-road newbies here to give them their first BDR taste, but with the storm warning, we postponed. Don't worry, guys. We'll be revisiting this soon, and you better join us.
We got back on the road quickly with one goal: ride Beartown State Forest, which is always a blast. We made it through there and even had time to mess around with a broken drone. But by the time we hit Lee, Massachusetts, the sky had turned dark, thunder and lightning rolled in. We didn't want to get caught on October Mountain in a storm again. That would be the worst. So we jumped on the highway and headed towards the ferry.
And while that wrapped up the BDR riding, the adventure wasn't over. In Winchester, Connecticut, we saw an emergency vehicle stop by a cyclist that was laying on the ground. Without hesitation, Shaun pulled over. As an ER nurse, he immediately took charge, leading life-saving measures since the crew at the scene was rather green. To me, he wasn't just calm and professional, he was a hero. I stayed on the sidelines saying prayers, but I was so grateful to have him with us, part of our North Fork Moto crew. But the rain held off until we were safely on the boat. And honestly, no clouds could dampen the joy of this 2-day express BDR trip, especially with our new friend and now hero, Shaun Kuhn. Even with rainstorms, unexpected detours, and prayers for a stranger, this trip proved you can squeeze a ton of adventure into just 2 days on the BDR. The laughs, the food, the challenges, and even the scary moments all added up to one unforgettable ride.